and try and remember that how politics should be conducted. But I have to say, I don't really have high hopes of that.
Lindsay Travinsky there, presidential historian. Thank you so much for that perspective. It's really great to get. I want to go to Nomia Iqbal now, North America correspondent. She's in Milwaukee, where the Republican National Convention is scheduled to take place on Monday. Nomia, what is the atmosphere there like right now?
As you can imagine, Carl, people were really shocked when that news came through. The final touches have been made to the convention. It's been pretty quiet and low-key up until this extraordinary news broke. Remember, the focus has been very much on President Joe Biden for quite some time following his performance at the debate, and there's huge pressure on him to stand down. The Republican National Convention is due to start on Monday, where Donald Trump will be officially unveiled as the party's leader. Now, the security is already tight here. We expect it to be tight because it is one of those events where you've got the former president coming up, and we expected that. We went for a tour around this airport-style security, but we understand. I'm just looking at just trying to bring you more information, that there will be more security here at some point, where the perimeter around the convention will be extended, and the Secret Service will be the leading agency coordinating the security here. But there's lots of questions, aren't there? Obviously, we're still trying to piece everything together, trying to verify what's true, what's not. There's still lots of questions around exactly what happened at the rally. And we've been playing that astonishing interview done by my colleague Gary O'Donoghue in Pennsylvania, speaking to an eyewitness who said that he saw this shooter on the rooftop. And so there's all these questions being asked about a potential lapse in security. And, I think it's safe to say that security here will be hugely ramped up for when Donald Trump arrives next week.
Nomia, this is a difficult question, obviously, to answer, but in terms of the sense you're getting on the ground, is this event likely to go ahead still as planned on Monday?
I cannot imagine it not going ahead. And I think the reason why I say that is because if you look at, Donald Trump on stage moments after those, what we believe were shots were fired, Secret Service tried to rush him off, and him doing the fist pump, the statement that he's released on his social network site. Donald Trump wants to project strength. That's what his supporters like about him. I'd be amazed if he doesn't appear at the RNC. I'd be amazed if it suddenly gets cancelled. I don't think the Republican Party would even contemplate doing that. There's no signs of them saying that. They've not suggested that. All we've heard so far is that the security will be tightened up here.
And of course, Nomia, we've been hearing some of the details about what the Republicans were planning to do, about the speaker lineup, about the people that were invited to the event. It's probably safe to assume that the tenor and even the contents of this convention is going to change now drastically, given the events of today.
Hugely. And already we're seeing the reaction from some Republicans, especially those very close to Donald Trump. J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, tweeting, he's saying today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the
literally just sitting there in the stands. He had to be maybe 3 or 4 rows up from the bottom of the bleachers where everybody was sitting. And 1 second, everyone's cheering and happy and listening to what Trump's saying, and the next minute, he's gone.
Rico, did you have any training in this sort of like first aid? I mean, this is life-saving aid that you're describing here.
I mean, I'm in the military. I'm in the 171st Air Refueling Wing, and we learn first aid and self-aid buddy care and basic training. And at the point, as soon as I heard the shots and I seen and heard someone yell medic, my first instinct was, I'm trained in self-aid. I'm trained in applying a tourniquet, but I'm not trained to see someone's, what I witnessed.
I mean, nobody can be trained for that. And we're getting the sense, Rico, not just from you, but from others, I think there's going to be some serious time, some healing that's going to need to take place for the people who are there and saw all of this, and especially for you to see everything up close. And you got the sense early on that that this person was lost?
From understanding head wounds and how they operate, when I seen what I seen, I was afraid that person was lost. And reading what has been done and said and stated in the news so far, those are now facts, which is a shame.
Rico, I don't even know if these are the right words to ask this question, because most people have never been in this situation, but how are you processing what you saw and what you witnessed?
I mean, one can only process what happened, hopefully as slow as possible. But my worry, my heart at this point in time is not for myself, but it's for the families of the loved one.
Rico Elmore.
It's important.
Thank you again for your time, and I'm sure the family is grateful, at least at your efforts, that you jumped in and you did everything you could to help out. And of course, our hearts go out to all the victims and you as well. And we're thankful that you're okay and able to share your story. Thank you very much tonight.
Thank you.
Again, that's one of the many witness accounts that we've received from Rico Elmore there. Really horrific in how this played out. These terrifying and chaotic moments that people described for us, and it went from jubilant people in the crowd eager to hear from the former president to, within a matter of seconds, the pop 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 that people thought at first maybe sounded like fireworks before the horror of what actually happened came into focus. Let's go back to Martha Raddatz. Martha, I know you've been talking to sources here, and I gotta say, just it's one thing when we get the reports from law enforcement, but when you hear from a witness who witnessed someone die before their very eyes, it's a reminder of just how horrific and historic this event was today.
And how tragic.
Yeah.
And I think most of us just saw what happened to former President Trump, and we're all thankful he is okay. But what happened in that venue, and hearing the story of that young soldier or military person leaping into action, which is not a surprise, going there for a jubilant celebration and having to deal with that kind of tragedy is sobering to us all. I do know that the weapon that the shooter apparently used was something that could be fired from 200, 300 yards away or even more, and could have been accurate. He very well could have shot more people. He very well could have killed former President Trump, even though he was 200 or 300 yards away, because that kind of weapon has that kind of range. We don't know yet whether he had a scope on that weapon or any sort of scope whatsoever. But even so, even just with the naked eye, he was clearly shooting within range of President Trump.
Yeah, still so many questions about how this played out, who this shooter was, the motivation there, and where the investigation goes from here. Martha Raddatz, as always, thank you. Let's go to Josh Margolin, one of our senior investigative producers, who's been getting new details from law enforcement. Josh, what are you learning?
With the key part of the investigation, a key part of the investigation will be on looking at where the shooter was, elevated position, as Secret Service now confirms. Elevated positions have long been perceived by law enforcement as a real risk to events, to people that gather. Look, just in recent years, we saw the Highland Park, Illinois mass shooting on July 4th, 2022. That was a shooter who was at an elevated position. Of course, the Las Vegas massacre, the worst mass shooting in American history, that was with a shooter who fired down from an elevated position on the Las Vegas Strip. And obviously, we can't forget President Kennedy was killed by a gunman who was located floors above the motorcade that Kennedy was in when he was assassinated. Elevated positions are the Secret Service prepares for this. So a key thing is going to be, how did this gunman get to the location? Why was that location available to that person?
Exactly, and I think obviously this is early on, and it's hard to ask some of these hypothetical questions now, but Josh, you know, like all the surveillance and the scanning of these areas that go into place before the event even occurs, and the drones and the helicopters and devices up above, it's hard to imagine how something like this could have been missed from 200, 300 yards away, a rooftop elevated position. That will definitely be part of the investigation going forward.
Absolutely. And in fact, the Secret Service has already gone public during the January 6th committee hearings. There was testimony about the Secret Service. They know that people that come to Trump rallies sometimes come carrying weapons, not necessarily because they want to hurt anybody. People carry weapons, but you're not allowed to bring those weapons into proximity of the president, of the former president, of the candidate.
Josh Margolin, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Let's go back to Rick Klein, our political director, Washington bureau chief, who's there in Milwaukee. I just want to get more on your response, because it is hard to imagine how this week of the Republican National Convention is going to play out, business as usual or as planned. What are you learning about some of the adjustments or changes that could be made in the coming hours?
Whit, I was told just moments ago that there were no changes to the convention itself, but I would note that there is precedent for condensing a convention in the event that you need to. There have been times where major storms, either in the convention city or elsewhere in the country, have forced the cancellation of one night. There is plenty of wiggle room in a schedule like this to be able to do the convention business in fewer than the 4 nights that are now scheduled. But I am told that things are still on track as of this hour, although things are changing fast. But wait, I would mention, just to understand what a convention is like, it's not just what goes on inside the arena itself. That's the main convention business. We're talking about dozens, maybe hundreds of other events throughout the weekend. John Carl's been reporting about things that are canceled tonight. Well, tomorrow night, there's a 15,000 person open air welcoming party for all delegates and invited guests. That is an enormous event, and it's an enormously hard event to secure. Similarly, you've got talking about breakfasts that happen around the city, in hotel ballrooms and private residences. So many opportunities to worry about the